Hello everyone, welcome to my online prep. Today we'll start with part 1 of chapter 1, Fundamentals of HRM. In this chapter, we'll be learning about human resource management and its fundamentals, how it has evolved over the time, how the concepts, policies and the HRM roles work. We'll be discussing this in today's session. Before we move on to the fundamentals of HRM, let us first understand why the study of human resources is important for us. Now, India is expected to add around 250 million individuals to its labor pool by the year 2020, and this is to happen at the rate of approximately 15 million per year. Now, this number is huge, and this has been made possible because of the increasing productivity in the domestic market as well as the increasing foreign direct investment in India and India with the other BRICS countries. Now, India is a member of BRICS that refers to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa. These countries together are expected to dominate the world economy in terms of what? In terms of the GDP, the gross domestic product, and it is also projected to have the second largest GDP. India will now have the second largest GDP after China by the year 2040. It is going to exceed most of the nations. Another prediction is made by economists that India's working population will increase over the next decade or more. Working population refers to the age group that comes under the working class, that is from 20 to 64 years, and herein India's median age is expected to be 31.2 years, making it the country with the youngest population. Even China will be at the age of 42.5 years. India will have the youngest population. Most of the population of India will be in the working age population, and major economies will also see a decline in their working age, making India's demographic dividend more appealing. So demographic dividend means the population in the maximum of the working age class. So this is an advantage that India is going to have. Now, with the increase in the working age and the increase in the workforce, it is important that the organizers, the managers, they have an idea of how to manage them. That comes under the human resource management. So human resource is going to be one of the most important resources for the growth of the nation. Thus, it is important that a new insight is provided into the people profile and the human resource strength. Now let us understand how management of human resources has evolved from the ancient days. So were there management practices in the ancient days? The answer to this question is yes. Historians have found that ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome and Indus Valley demonstrated the practice of effective management. This can be seen through the profound irrigation systems found, public utilities like the Great Bath, and even construction projects like Taj Mahal and Egyptian pyramids. There are various examples of how the human resources were managed, how the human minds were put at work to create these huge constructions. So we can say that management is oldest of the arts and youngest of the sciences. Why? Because it has only recently gained focus. If we talk about India, so India definitely has a very rich cultural heritage, and we get these traces from treatises like the Arthashastra written by Kautilya. Also, we know about the Vedantic philosophy. All of these contain proofs of how statesmanship worked or how the finance, trade and commerce was practiced during these times. So it codified the general management principles as well as the human resource practices in ancient India. Now, if we talk about a more recent time, then the British system of corporate organization also had a very powerful effect on the country's managerial history. How Britishers definitely had their own systems that were implemented in India. One great example of this is the civil services. The examination that was created at that time, it is still almost the same even after almost 60 years of independence. We are following it for the Indian administrative services. So we can say that the management in elsewhere in the world or in India, even in the ancient days, was quite profound. if we see some theories that were developed at that time, so there are various theories given in the ancient days about management. One important among them is given by an American sociologist, Chester Bernard. As early in 1938, he gave his theory of organization. So even in those early days, these theories were being developed, and Chester Bernard's theory was based on the social systems approach. He focused on the social system, that is on the humans. He said that the humans that are cooperating in a particular organization, if they cooperate and coordinate and there's a positive relationship among them, then it would lead to success of the organization. So he focused on the understanding of human behavior. So human resources. In this theory, we can say that human resources were the focus. So management theories focused on human resources even in the ancient days. Let us see a more detailed concept of this theory. They give some major features of the approach. First, the organization is a social system that is based on cultural relationships. That is, culture between the people, the cultural system composed of the people who were cooperating to the goal of the organization. Second, the relationships exist between the external and the internal environment of the organization. External means the forces outside of the organization. It could be the market or the geographical location or even the economy. Then internal environment refers to the work culture or work environment provided to the people. Third factor is the cooperation among the group members, which is crucial for achieving the organizational objectives. If the people, if the member of the organization are cooperating with each other, they are ready to coordinate, they are not willing to have conflicts. And even if there are conflicts, they are resolved through proper discussion, then it would lead to the achievement of organizational objectives. And finally, he also said that effective management requires harmony between the goals of the organization and various groups within it. Every organization has several units or divisions within it. There are the marketing division, the sales division, finance division, and each of this unit has its own goals. So these goals should be in harmony. They should be quarterly working towards the achievement of the goal of organization. So that is why it is known as a social theory. And social theory indicates that the human factor was focused on. So management theories did exist from the ancient days. Another important phase in India's development was the time of liberalization. India saw liberalization in the years of 1990s. The policies that were implemented, LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, this opened new avenues for management as well. Let us see how. So liberalization, herein an important step that was taken was the introduction of reservations. We see today that the role of reservation is to provide opportunities for the less privileged to catch up with others. Reservations are provided to those belonging to the backward classes, those belonging to the economically weaker section, and even women. Also, globalization. What was the advantage of globalization? It brought highly professional multinational companies, and then the Indian companies saw that these MNCs focused on competence and merit, and it led to more enlightened HR policy that focused on individuals. If we talk about the traditional times, so a clear picture comes in our mind that it is rigid. The HR practices were rigid, there were fixed roles and responsibilities, and human factor was not much focused. But then the new practices that were adopted, they focused on more humanistic values. Under this, various researches were conducted. One important was by Marcus Buckingham and Gallup. So here Marcus Buckingham's research was on the strength based. They gave the strength based management. That is, they focused on what the individuals are good at, their talents, and then they were further developed. These highlighted the importance of the manager's capability to set expectations, and leverage the individual strengths for better performance. Set expectations. Managers should set the right level of expectation according to the experience and talent of their employees, as well as the individual strength. If one individual has more talent in the market sector, then their skills should be utilized. This will give us better performance. Also, other changes were made in the new liberalization era. These changes were including feedback. Now, feedback from employees was recognized as an integral part. How employees' feedback gave the managers a view whether they are happy with their surroundings, whether they are getting challenging roles, or they are facing conflicts. It led to better employee engagement and it became an essential aspect of good HR practice. Apart from that, employee engagement, this has become a part. Then IT major, information technology, how it can be leveraged. And then after that, the working arrangements, job incumbent behaviors, work attitudes, all of these factors were given more attention and focus. Now let us see the contemporary or the new response to HRM. Fast forwarding to the 20th century. So new response to HRM, why did it came? Because of the privatization, liberalization and globalization policy. Before that, what happened? In the nationalization of banks in 1969, it created new expectations among the people and mandated banks to open branches all across the country. With this, the demand for employment in banks also increases. Another step in this was the linking of workers' dearness allowance and All India Working Class Index in 1970. This led to a surge in the salaries for the clerks and the managers. But then what happened? Until the 1990s, bank was only considered as a necessary chore in India. There were only the public sector banks and the old generation private banks that were existing, and they offered the minimal facilities and the customers didn't really enjoy them. But after that, what happened? The government of India took various steps and liberalization, privatization happened, and then private sector banks were opened as well as foreign banks established their branches in India. With this, the managers now rely less on the personal charisma and emphasize logical and step-by-step implementation process. That is, focus now is more on people management, how the employees can be provided better working conditions. Another important step that was taken, adoption of the Narasimha Committee reports in the late 20th century. So this committee, it gave various recommendations that led to significant transformations in the Indian banking sector and also resulted in the emergence of new generation private sector banks, and it created a new banking experience for the common man because the banking profits were declining and banks were facing several non-performing assets, bad loans, etc. To revive their condition, these recommendations were given and adopted. For example, retail banking expanded with the widespread presence of ATMs. Now, ATMs can be found anywhere. There are on-site or off-site ATMs, brown, white label ATMs. These are all available to make banking more convenient, and now the customers can avail the products and services at their fingertips. The new generation customers, they want banking anytime, anywhere. So to provide that, these recommendations were given. Also, a recent initiative by the government, it included merging of certain public sector banks with the bigger ones. What happened in a move to restructure and redefine the country's banking space in 2021, we know that 10 public sector banks were merged into 4 banks now. And now India today has 12 public sector banks in total. So basically these steps were taken and banking laws were also amended to increase the convenience, and now the public sector banks knew if they wanted to stay in competition and wanted to gain profits, they had to adopt these new technology. With the technology, seeking fresh talent also became important. To manage this technology, recruitment of younger generation, that is comfortable with technology, learning new things and computerization of the banking services, it led to transformation of the banks of the future. So this is how the practices and HRM it developed from ancient times through liberalization and now in the contemporary India as of we see today. Now that we have understood how HRM has developed over the years, we can move on to the fundamentals under this discipline. First, let us see some concepts, policies and practices that are peculiar to HRM. So, it is clear that HRM is concerned with the people dimension. Why people? Because it is the people that make up the organization. People who are recruited as the employees, staff members, their services are acquired, skills are developed, and thus motivation is crucial. If the people of the organization are not motivated to work towards the organizational objectives, then the efforts would be fruitless. So it involves a series of integrated decisions. These decisions are related to the employment relationship, how what process is to be followed to recruit the correct type of talent for every position, how it can contribute to the organization's ability to achieve its objectives. Now, HRM, it is not just applicable to the corporate world, it is to the various types of organizations. They can be government, business, education, health, recreational or social action. So any type of organization definitely requires human resource management. It needs to manage its employees in the best way possible so that the goals can be achieved. And now it is a management function that helps attract, set expectations and develop members for an organization. And what is the goal? Goal is to achieve the maximum efficiency through the programs, functions and activities. How can this maximum efficiency be achieved under HRM? For that, let us see the core elements. The most important component of any organization are its people. People are the ones who make up the organization. They are the ones who staff and manage its functions. If they do not possess the required skills, talents or motivations, then the objectives would not be able to be reached. Second, it is necessary to have an efficient management. It involves application of the management functions and principles that are required for acquiring, developing, maintaining and remunerating employees. How the positions that are opened, they will be filled. It involves acquiring and recruiting. Then training has to be provided that are particular to the functions of the organization, maintaining them, that is retaining, reducing the turnover rates, retaining so that the employees remain in the organization for a longer period of time, and remunerating. It refers to the wages as well as the benefits that are provided. Then behavioral dynamics, it is related to the decisions that are taken regarding the people. It should be integrated and consistent. They should not be biased towards one individual, and it should be the effectiveness and efficiency of the organization that will lead to better customer service and total quality management. Behavioral dynamics refers to taking decisions that will have positive effects on the working of the employees that would lead to higher customer service and thus higher profit for the organization. And then finally, uniformity of application. These principles, they are applicable to the business as well as to the non-business organization. Business, like we said, not only to the corporate world but to any type of organization, whether there are schools, hospitals, recreation like restaurants and even voluntary organization. Management is very important. So these principles have to be applied. These are the core elements of HRM. Next, we have objectives of HRM. So these objectives are actually multi-fold. They are not just creating rules and regulations that have to be followed by the people of the organization. Rather, they include the societal objectives, organizational objectives, functional objectives, as well as the personal objectives. So societal objectives, these relate to the society expectations to be ethically and socially responsible for the needs and challenges of the society while minimizing the negative impact of such demand upon the organization. We have heard about the term externalities. Externalities refer to those effects that occur on the outside world existing of us that we do not pay for, we do not pay for. For example, a factory that is producing, let's say, shoes, it creates pollution in the form of smoke. So that is a negative externality. Our societal objective, it should be to take responsibility of this pollution. Then organizational objectives, herein to recognize the role of HRM in bringing about organizational effectiveness, motivate the employees in such a manner that they all are working towards achieving the goal of the organization, to achieving the organizational objectives. Then third are the functional objectives, that is to develop and maintain departmental contribution. Every organization is divided into different units and they have their own goals, but departmental contribution, along with that the organization's needs, they should be in harmony. And finally we have the personal objectives, that is related to the personal goals of the employees. The employees goals could be creating more income for the family, to increase their skills, or to have new challenges. So according to that, the scope is from entry to exit of an employee. Thus, developing, retaining and motivating employee in the organization, this comes under personal objectives. So these were the main goals. Apart from that, there are HRM goals from the professional perspective as well. First is the advisory role. The HRM managers, they have to provide advice to the departments regarding solution to any problems that are affecting people, policies and processes. That is, if there are any kind of conflicts in the organization between two, let's say two departments, finance department and the sales department, so it is the responsibility of the HRM to provide advice. They can do so by providing the employment policies as well as the procedures. Employment policies, herein the HRM design the structure, they provide guidelines on the organization structure, the social responsibility, training, workshops that are conducted, employee relations as well as retirement. So these are the employment policies. Apart from that, procedures. We have heard of the term SOPs. SOPs refer to the standard operating procedures. This start from manpower planning and recruitment to the cessation or end of the employment. So how the procedure will work, it is also to be provided. Advices have to be given by the HRM. Second is the functional role. Under this, function is to interpret and help to communicate the HR policies, not only making the policies but also communicating them. Also maintaining that these policies are implemented in letter and spirit, that the departments, for example, if we are talking about a dress code, so all the people or the of the organization, they should be following this dress code. So they also act as mentor and guide to other functional verticals. Third is the service role. Service role means providing useful information on HRM matters. HRM matters if the organization needs to make sure that the work is up to date and what is happening. They should know if there is any kind of delay. So what is the reason for the delay? This information has to be provided by the HRM department. And then finally we have the specialist role. Now HRM mostly are recruited from the colleges that have students who have speciality in one particular domain. So there has been a growth of functional HR specialists who has developed expertise in one major aspect of the HR function. Herein there are international relations specialists, there are the HR analytics, then compensation specialists are there, there are special HR managers for the recruitment under the recruitment team, so and so on. So now the consultancies are there, but large organizations today have their own specialists for all these activities. So specialist role, it is also according to the professional perspective. Also we have the managerial functions of HRM. From the point of view of the managerial functions, there are 5 roles. That is planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. You have also studied about these roles in other chapters. Basically, the HRM has to provide these roles Planning means a predetermined future course of action. It refers to the research that has to be taken for employee practices, the wage trends that are expected for the future, the labor market demands in the future, and then ensuring right talent for the right position. So all of this comes under planning. Next, organizing. Herein, the group of human beings are allocated the task among its members, task according to their own skills and talents, so that they can work towards achieving the common goal. So the human beings that are appointed are now organized. Now, allocation of the resources as well as authority and responsibility. This is important. After that, staffing. To make sure that the organization is running functionally and efficiently, it is important to provide that proper staff is there, sufficient staff is there, and the organization process results in the creation of a structure with various positions. So various functional departments are optimally employed by cost effective. Now staffing should be cost effective. This can be through online modes, offline mode, but it is the responsibility of the HRM to make sure that cost effectiveness is there. After that, directing. It is the process of leading, supervising, and guiding the personal activities of the organization. What happens here? The policies that are provided. So various tasks such as laying down the policy, monitoring them, providing guidance and consultation for the employees for optimum efficiency, and finally controlling. Once the policies are implemented, it is the role of the HRM to check and verify whether everything is in conformity with the laid down plans and objectives. If not, necessary changes have to be brought and implemented. That is regulating the employee activities and policies according to the structured plan. They have to make sure that the plan is equal to the actual functioning. So these are the managerial functions. They manage the organization. After that, we have the operational functions of HRM. These are related to how the operations of an organization work. This involves procurement. Procurement means collection of the resources. So HR planning, recruitment and selection, induction and placement. Right from the starting of recruitment to their training as well as placement, this comes under procurement. Then development, that is enhancing the skills. How can the skills be enhanced? There are various training courses that are available in the job, or we can say on the job training. Then skill development, career planning, mentoring and counseling is provided. This is also the role of the manager. Then compensation, wage and salary determination. Wages are to be paid in cash as well as in kind. There are various benefits that are provided, such as the social security schemes given by the employer. So how wage determination is to be done comes under compensation. Now the younger generation wants to have a attractive compensation, that is to be kept in mind. After that, integration. Integration of human resources and its values with the organization, making the best use of the skills of our employees. And finally, maintenance. Maintenance refers to retaining of the employees, sustaining and improving the working conditions, motivation and employee communication. For a longer duration of time, the employees, they will stay in the organization only if proper working conditions are provided. For this, feedback should be taken and proper attention has to be provided to the needs of the employee. Next, we have the developmental functions of the HRM. Developmental functions means how can the HRM enhance the employees' skills. First, under this is the retention management, to ensure that the key talents are attached to the organization for a reasonable period. That is, turnover rates can be reduced and employees stay in the organization for a longer period. If they do not, then it can hamper the business continuity plans. Creating recruitment again and again are also higher cost and time. So to provide cost efficiency and time efficiency, retention management should be focused. Second is counseling or advisory management. When you work in an organization, you want the hire managers or your seniors to provide you advices on various matters such as careers so as to maintain a healthier work environment. So, providing expert advice and preventing counseling for all the levels of employees is important. Then, change management. If there is any change in the organization, it has effects on all the employees. It can create confusion and upheavals in the production. So, how the change can be managed? It should be the responsibility of the HR. For example, in the case of mergers and acquisitions, then providing a cordial environment so as to avoid conflicts, that is to be done. Then employee engagement. Employees are fully engaged in their given jobs. They are provided enough recreation so that pressure is not there. So engagement is to be there. They should be motivated towards their roles. Then attrition or turnover management. To reduce the attrition rate, we need to find the reasons. What is the reason why people are leaving the organization? And then we should work to minimize the impact of separations. And finally, we have the talent management to ensure that the required talents are hired, developed, and retained. This can be done through progressive career plans and also employee benefits or schemes. So these are the various types of functions or objectives of the human resource management. So these objectives are to be followed, and this gives us an idea what roles are performed by the HR team. Next concept is employee policies. Now, what is policies? Policies are followed in every field or area that we enter. It is a set of rules or guidelines that are working in the organization, and the employees have to follow them in order to achieve a specific goal. And an effective policy should outline what employees must do or not do, provide directions, limits, principles, and guidance for decision making. For example, when you buy a new electronic product, so you're provided guidelines or the working manual as to what to do and what not to do. Similarly, these policies work as a work manual for the employees in the organization. And we can also say policy is a plan of action. It tells us what course of action has to be taken. So it reflects the vision of the management, address the basic needs of the employees, and ensure that constant or consistent treatment is given to minimize favoritism and discrimination. If we look at the policy document of the organization, we will see what is the culture, what are the values that are followed in the organization, whether the organization values the benefit and needs of its employees. All of these factors are also taken into consideration when we are applying for a job. When you are applying for a job, you see what are the policies regarding holidays, what are the policies of working conditions, of half days, leaves, etc. So these are the policy of the organization, and managers, they need to ensure that their part of the organization provides an environment in which the individuals can flourish, they can increase their skills and have better satisfaction. So a well thought out and well defined policy helps manage human resources effectively, and also because it is a dynamic nature, so it should evolve over time to time. The policy should not be rigid, it should be flexible. Accordingly, if there is any need to change the policy or bring an amendment, it is to be made possible. So we can say that people management remains an ongoing and ever changing issue. It is a dynamic concept because employees seek fulfillment of their social and personal needs. When you are working in the organization, you want not only in cash benefits, but you also want your personal needs to be satisfied. You want to learn about the new technologies, systems, and skills. That is, they tend to stabilize over time. So these are how the policies, they evolve over a period of time. So it is a flow concept. It evolves over a period of time. Definitely it is created at the starting of the organization at the beginning, but then over the period of time, whenever necessity is there, the policies can be evolved and amended. Now, policies that are made under the people management are different from the other resources because human resources are more active, they are dynamic, they do not stay stable, static, or unlike the other passive resources, we can say the human resources are dynamic and unpredictable because they react. Human beings react to any kind of change in the organization because of the individual differences, cultural background, education levels. These reactions also differ from one individual to another. Thus, policy making in case of employees has to be done very carefully. So, to maximize the potential of the people and systems, organizations should develop transparent, logical, consistent, and implementable policies that apply uniformly throughout the organization. And one important point that you have to keep in mind is that the human or the employee policies should be dynamic and adaptable to changes. So if such question comes whether the policies are stable or can they stabilize over time, so the answer would be no, they are dynamic, they rarely stabilize, and they have to be flexible and adaptable to changes in development, both in the internal as well as the external environment. So human or employee policy should be made keeping this in mind. Thus, field of management social sciences as well as in social sciences, these aspects are kept in mind when the organization is developing its policies. So we have been talking about human resources and how it can be developed into better use. But what is the importance of human capital? Today we are in the knowledge era. Earlier there were eras of the agriculture or agrarian era. Then there was the industrial era. In these eras, more focus was on the physical capital, machinery, etc. But now, in the context of today, when we are in the knowledge era, the human resources or the human capital, including the intellectual competencies, knowledge and skills, these are valued more. Now, unlike the structural capital, human capital is owned by the individuals that are the employee, and they can leave the organization anytime unless they are not provided or they are not incorporated into the organization's procedures and structure. If they are not satisfied, they will shift to another organization. So it is very important that we manage our human capital efficiently. But despite the importance of human capital, it is often undermanaged in many organizations. How organizations do not provide proper leaves or benefits to the employees, they neglect their feedbacks, they do not recognize the efforts and intellectual contributions of the employee. They focus more on the output. This can actually be a detrimental factor for the growth of the organization. So there's a need to convert the knowledge and skills of the employees towards the goals of the organization. We can say that human capital is the primary source of wealth in the current knowledge era, where the essence of the business is to convert knowledge into goods and services for the customers. So the human resource management team or the department should focus on how they can improve the human capital as well as they can retain them for a longer duration in the organization. Now, many companies have started recognizing the importance of human capital. Earlier, human capital was not accounted anywhere, but now they have classified it as an asset on the balance sheet, and they indicate the value of human resources as a footnote when creating the balance sheet, and the value of human resources is thus accounted. So human resource accounting, what is it? It is a practice that is introduced by leading corporations internationally and India. It measures the economic value of people to the organization. It is actually an intangible thing. Human capital is an intangible thing because it stays with the individual. It is the skills of the individual, but still it can be provided economic value. That is the process of human resource accounting. It takes into account factors like potential value and replacement cost when skilled individuals leave the company. That is also known as the opportunity cost. When an individual or an employee leaves the company, then how much cost the company will have to incur in replacing them, whether they have to provide higher wages to the next employee, how much recruitment cost will be there. All of these factors are taken into consideration. So human capital herein involves the measure of the costs that are incurred to recruit, select, then hire, train, and develop the human assets. It also provides the economic value. So it is the measurement and quantification of the inputs human inputs regarding their experience and commitment. In fact, the heavy price that the market pays for high caliber individuals, it is actually very huge. So with the high cost of hiring skilled individuals for lateral movements, it becomes a challenging to ascertain the true cost and value of manpower or the human capital that is available to a company beyond an 80% confidence level. This line here means that we cannot exactly measure the human value. We can only provide an estimate that is not beyond 80% confidence level. So how can the valuation of human capital be done? Actually, the employees display over a large number of competencies and skills, each of which can be measured and valued, such as the domain knowledge, skills, technology, project management, as well as their features or attributes in leadership, communication, etc. So these factors can be valued. So besides the customers, products and market capitalization, companies also value the efficiency of their operations, and these operations are directly linked to their staff. Better the staff workings, better will be the efficiency of the operation. So it has a positive relationship. And then the strength of the organization arises from the efficiency of its operations. Again, it is developed by its employees. So developing expertise requires constant practice, especially in the face of constantly changing technological conditions and market environments. So the costs that are incurred to provide training and experience, that also comes under the valuation. To provide this, a dynamic management information system is developed. It captures all the elements of human contribution to an organization's performance. All the information under the MIS, it is recorded and can be used by the management at any time so that they can value the contribution of every individual in the organization. Accordingly, appraisals can be provided, benefits can be increased, and motivation can definitely be enhanced. So an MIS can capture and convert these competencies into productive and quantifiable output that can provide a figure closest to human asset valuation for the organization. So if the question comes, how valuation of human capital is done? It is done through a dynamic management information system. This is the answer to the question. Now, because we are concerned with banking, we need to see what is the importance of human capital in banks. We have already discussed that the banking industry in the country today employs over a 500,000 employees, both in the public as well as the private sector. There are some permanent or internal as well as outsourcing concept has developed. Now, the number of people that are engaged by the banking industry directly and indirectly would run close to 1 million. Directly are the ones that are recruited as permanent members, and outsourcing is done for various areas such as credit card business, then loan recovery, sales and marketing, etc. So outsourcing also involves indirectly recruitment of individuals. Now, although initially public sector banks of India had faced a plethora of problems due to its inherent compliances, over a period they have overcome these constraints. Why or how? This is because they have recognized the importance of human capital. They have, in a long way, they had to face competition that were posed by private sector banks, and now there can be seen a constant development in the public sector banks through training, motivation, workshops are conducted, appraisals are given, etc. So many banks now has a system of continuous training and development of employees across all the levels in the organization. Thus, we can say that HRM or human capital importance is also increasing in the banking sector in India. So now we have proven that human capital is definitely crucial for the working of the organization. But not every employee will have the same productive value. So how can the employees be transformed into a productive asset or resource for the organizations. The companies understand the value of increasing the employees' output through training, development sessions, and herein a new concept has developed that is known as the human capital management. It is focused on the right kind of people to get the job done. That is recruiting the right talent or the right individual that will be able to give the goal that is decided by the organization. That is the idea that the HR theory is using today. So there are many researchers and theorists that have given their own ideas of how the managers can manage their human capital. One among these was described by Tannerbaum and Schmidt. They suggested the choice related to the amount of authority used by the manager and the degree of freedom given to the team in making decisions. So they emphasize the role of the manager of the team manager. The manager, whether they are given the freedom and authority to take decisions, whether the people working under the manager are following them, all of these factors will determine how well the managers can transform the employees to better output. And in today's competitive and dynamic labor market, it is vitally important for the HCM to focus extensively on strengthening and developing excellent leadership skills. So now we can say that efficient leaders will be able to transform the employees into productive asset. Leadership skills, a good leader is one when the employees are willingly following the decisions or the orders given by the leader. The leader is seen as a role model. So good leadership skills are very important if they want to increase the efficiency of their employees. So how can the HRM practices and management of transformation go together? With the globalization along with the benefits, some new challenges have also evolved in the economy. That is, changes in the outside world have made the need to consider the environment more important than ever. Now both the external and the internal environment and the ever-changing business environment, they have to be considered. They are becoming an increasing interest and challenge for the human resource management team. Now, the economic segments like banking, business, they have been faced by recent events to place an increasing focus on the rapidly changing external environment. How the external environment will have effect on the internal environment, this also matters. For example, the economic conditions such as inflation, or if there are any diplomacy reasons that are existing between two nations, how can it have the effect on the organization or the internal environment? It also has to be taken into focus. So this concept is known as organizational change. It is the modification in any or all the internal environment of the organization, such that the structure, technology, physical settings, and human resources. And this is in a state of great upheaval and constant change. So the HRM, they should be efficient. The failure to read the changes or the complacent attitude by the management, it can cost heavily to the organization. Thus, HRM has an equally important role for the management of any kind of change that might occur. Next topic is Indian human resource management in transition. So one of the noteworthy features of the Indian workplace is the demographic transition that is taking place. We are moving towards a more younger generation, that is median population now today is in the working age group, and it is estimated that both China and India will have a population of 1.45 billion by 2030. However, the benefit that India has, that it will have a larger workforce than China. This is the demographic advantage that it has. The current population of India of 1.1 billion people, herein half of this population is under 25 years of age. That is, most of the people here are in the working age group. But along with this, the problem of unemployment is also rising. There is a scarcity of jobs that has always been a problem for India, and now it is also expected to increase. But along with that, competitive advantage in industries is there, like software services, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology. It has led to a market significance in HR functions. So, to manage better the skills that are available in the Indian market, here the HR has to upgrade their management responsibilities. These relativities were demonstrated in various studies along with a recent study of the three global Indian companies with 235 managers when evidence was presented that positively linked the HRM practices with organizational performance. So this study, it showed that they showed better performance when they had higher motivation and leadership skills that were provided. So structural design, if it was contemporary and up to date, then entire enterprise excellence could be achieved. There were feedbacks from the employees of these organizations that showed this positive relationship. Now organizations in India are becoming knowledge hubs because of higher employment rates. So, among these global developments, the primary role of the Indian managers will therefore will be to force the new employment and industrial relations through purposeful HRM practices and policies. So, what is the role of industrial relationships? Actually, fun fact here is that the role of industrial relations is expected to reduce as a more profound HRM approach would be followed in the future. So earlier the Indian industrial relations have evolved from the political and labor market demands, and now what is happening is since the 1980s the industrial relations culture has been considerably affected by the global trends, also because of the new industries like software, outsourced functions, and the emergence of a vibrant service sector. It has given rise to a new thinking on the industrial relations front. So there are several fallouts of the rapid growth due to globalization. There has been a change in the work culture as well on the shop floor, and the young professional today, they usually change jobs very frequently. They like to switch between jobs from time to time. Then long hours on the job floor for retail, unrealistic result orientation, all this has reduced the popularity of the earlier, or we can say the old traditional sectors. Now the attrition in the BPO and research and development activity has reached almost 25%. Attrition or the turnover rate, the employees that are leaving these sectors has reached almost 25%, and any number of schemes and initiatives are being devised regularly by HR managers across the country. Now the HR managers are focused on how to improve these retainment rates. Herein, with the new generation employees stepping onto the organization, the industrial relations has taken a new dimension, and the new generation employees are less inclined to unionize. Thereby, trade unions are also, they have redefined their approach, philosophy, and rules. Accordingly, the management, they need to refocus their policies on industrial relations, and dynamic strategies have to be developed so that the rights and privileges of the employees can be increased and adapted to their new demands. Now, for the last topic for today's session, let us see some key HRM practices in the Indian organizations. So, first regarding the job description. Job description is provided very detailed. So, a detailed job description is provided in which the work roles are highly defined, the working hours are given, responsibilities, the time and leaves, all of this information is given in the job description. Regarding the recruitment, there is a strong dependence on the formal labor market, and direct recruitment from institutions of higher education, the colleges and universities is done. Also, internet and print media is used. In today's time, the most emergent and popular medium is LinkedIn. Then regarding compensation apart from the wages in cash, there are other facilities provided. Strong emphasis on security and lifetime employment is there, including a range of facilities like healthcare, housing, and schooling for children. For training and development, it is actually poorly institutionalized in India. Even today, training and development is not given enough focus. Popularity of the training programs and their effect in skill and value development is still unrecognized or obscure. That is, HRM practices are still not focusing on training and development. For performance appraisal as well, a very low coverage for employees are there. Mostly employees are given a fixed compensation and performance appraisal is not there, which also refers to the rewards. It is actually very positive to the increasing of output and productivity, but still HRM does not focus on it. For promotion reward, it is moderately variable across the industries. Seniority system is still there in the public sector enterprise regarding the reward and promotion, and the use of merit and performance is mostly linked to the globally oriented industries. In India, merit and performance is still not a criteria for rewards. Career planning again is limited in scope, and here also seniority based escalator is still prevalent, and widespread acceptance of voluntary retirement scheme is also there. Cross-functional career paths are very uncommon in the Indian companies. Gender equity has seen a positive change. It is driven by proactive court rulings, ILO guidelines, and legislature proceedings. However, there's a lack of strategic and inclusion vision spread, so it still needs to be improved. And finally, reservation system is there. The central government has fixed 15% reservation for the scheduled castes, 7.5% for the scheduled tribes, and 27% for other backward classes. And also states vary in their reservation systems. So these are all the fundamentals of HRM in elsewhere in the world as well as in India. With this, we hope that you would have understood how the HRM works. In the next part of this chapter, we will learn about the recent developments or the recent issues that are being faced by this industry in India. With this, we have come to the end of this lesson. Keep learning with us. Thank you.